to travel. This is the first field hearing held by the Rules Committee in 20 years. Play some of what you heard from witnesses in Georgia. Here it is.
One of my colleagues in the House, Representative Alan Powell, actually in a committee meeting said to somebody who was testifying, "You're correct. It wasn't found," meaning fraud. It's just in a lot of people's minds that there was. He actually said that in a committee meeting. It's really not there. It's just in a lot of people's minds that there was. So this legislation is based on things of the imagination in people's minds.
After an hour and a half standing outside, we made it inside the building, finally. Just to find out that the line inside the building was just as long as the line outside the building. We were able to handle those 3 hours standing in line, but we know that not everybody can.
So what else did you hear today? And will this testimony compel your colleagues in the Senate to take some action?
I was just listening to Mr. Cigar at the end. He's a veteran, Don. And one of the things I asked him was, when you signed up to serve in the Air Force, did you have to stand in line? He said no. But to vote, voter after voter, Stacey Abrams and I met with a number of them in Cobb County yesterday. We're waiting 5 hours, 7 hours. And as you know, the bill that passed in Georgia, one of 28 bills that's already passed across the country, it is Exhibit A, over 400 have been introduced. This bill basically says no water from nonpartisan volunteers in lines, even if you're there for 7 hours. But the devil's in the details. What we learned is that the runoff period where Ossoff and Warnock, both of whom were there, where they got elected, that used to be 9 weeks. It's down to 28 days. Can't vote on weekends during the runoff period. And if you want to register in those 28 days, too bad. You have to register 29 days before an election. Surgical precision. Those are the words of a North Carolina judge when looking at a discriminatory bill that was passed there years ago. Literally discriminating with surgical precision.
And you mean the Republicans are doing that? Because look, because not a single Republican member of the committee was present for that hearing. Go on, but why weren't they there?
What I was most concerned about is they didn't put witnesses. If they want to defend this bill that takes away people's freedom to vote, if they're in rural Georgia or suburban Georgia, or if they're in the cities, then be there and defend it. They sent no witnesses. So it did give us an opportunity, and this is why we brought the Rules Committee to Georgia, to the Civil Rights Museum. It gave us a case, the opportunity to show the people of Georgia, look, we have a job here in Washington, and that is to ensure your basic federal voting rights. And we have a way to do it with the For the People bill. In fact, that bill, as I pointed out in this place devoted to civil rights and the history of civil rights, it is firmly grounded in our Constitution, Don, because our Constitution says that Congress can make and alter the rules regarding federal elections. It's clear as day.
But it's stuck in limbo.
It's on this bill.
Yeah, but the For the People Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, both stuck in legislative limbo. Over the weekend, you told our Dana Bash that you would consider election measures in the infrastructure reconciliation bill in order to get some voting protections passed. Are you just throwing things at the wall, hoping something is going to stick at this point? Like, what is the strategy?
I have a little more strategy than that. First of all, no one's given up on For the People. Senator Manchin in good faith came to the table, and we actually put together a pretty good package. It's not quite done, which includes so many federal basic rights, like same-day registration and many other things, commended by Stacey Abrams and many others. You know, we have the issue of the filibuster there, but he has signaled a willingness to look at a standing filibuster. We could potentially do a carve out for this legislation. John Lewis bill, those hearings start in the House this fall, and that is something that would be incredibly helpful, and you could add other provisions to it. The third you mentioned, reconciliation, and that is a fancy word, which means the second infrastructure package. The first one is the bipartisan that they're negotiating this evening. The second is the one for things like childcare and housing, things that matter a lot to Joe Biden. You can put in that package, you can put election infrastructure and then tie it to incentives for things like mail-in ballots. Now, let me say, it is not a substitute for those federal basic election rights. but it would be a good start. Then you go on from there. And finally, the Justice Department is no longer your Bill Barr's Justice Department. You've got people like Vanita Gupta, Kristen Clark, that are very serious about enforcing our election laws. And I'm not ending here. This was the beginning. We are taking the Rules Committee to other field hearings. We're going to continue our work, fact finding, and bringing our members out to hear the real stories from voters.
Taking it on the road, Senator Amy Klobuchar, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don.
Let's get some perspective now.